New trains and more headaches.
Train, 16 coaches long.
Now you see why. Well, we got a couple new trains. Little man was wanting some BNSF trains, and well, we had to do it for him, and we ended up getting these Walters train lines from Tony's DCC trains or whatever online. You can look his website up. And why did we get these particular ones? Well, I just asked the guy. I said, I got 18-inch turns, radius turns, and I don't need any more problems. I need the smallest trains I can, but they got to be orange and they got to have BNSF on them. So these are the ones he suggested. These were the train line ones. They were DC trains. They were like 80 bucks a piece. But this is a DCC track, so had him do the full conversion to ESU lock sound, and took them apart and did everything on the inside. It took some major work to get that done, and they're identical. They're identical, and for the mere price of 650 bucks, you can have a pair of trains and try to run these together. Well, when I first got these things, I figured I'd go ahead and just run them singular on the track, and did some ops here where I did them both clockwise on the track and counterclockwise on the track, because it will run different in each direction. I also ran the trains in forward and reverse, and I just took copious notes, and I just ran this thing for hours of just running to find out what's going on, how are these trains going to run. Well, come to find out, I had to label the top of 1-2. That's called EMD2 and EMD1. Well, that number 1 had some issues. It wasn't good right off the bat. The number 1 was doing some major flashing around these crossings. So it was one of the pickups. It was either the track or the pickup. So after I cleaned the track thoroughly again for the second time, I isolated that down to, it had to be something with this train. So I looked, and yeah, one of the pickups on the back truck was messed up. So I had to bend those things a little bit more, and they work better. And as you can see on the track itself, it has some more pink spots over here, and it just so happens to be at the exit of that tunnel, or the entrance, at the bridge, and over there again where the incline stops. Well, those tend to be the bad areas again, and so that's going to take some attention. The one thing I did learn was, yeah, these things have all the cool sounds, bells and horns and lights and everything. But when you're running all that junk, you can't hear how the train electrically is running on the track, and find out where the clinkety clunks are on the track to see if you got bad spots or high spots, or your track has gaps in it or whatever. So I turned off the sound and ran them for hours again, and I just listened. And this area sounds terrible. And I also, let me show you. Also, this is up in the tunnel. I have a clunkety clunk area right up inside there. The rest of it ran pretty good, but that area there is going to be a little bit tough to get up into. It's right at the exit of this tunnel, so it does have a clunk there. I don't know whether it's uneven track or something, and it likes to derail there too, so that's going to be interesting. What I did was I just left the lights on only on these tracks to see if I had any little electrical connections that was coming disconnected along the track, and I found out that generally it runs pretty good electrically. All the little flashing things were corrected when I messed with these trucks. When I got inside these trains, never taken any of this stuff apart, there was a major amount of grease up in these backside of these trucks, and somehow, I guess when he put that thing back together, he just bent one of those little arms that wasn't even touching the wheel. The other thing I noticed is that one train sounds different than the other. One sounds like it's got some kind of issue with running, and I'll have to investigate that further. Well, these were my notes from there. You can see that every time anything happened, I would write down what went wrong. And that EMD1, it has a problem about everywhere. Clockwise, counterclockwise, it did pretty good. And the EMD2, it ran pretty good all the way through. So I have the tale of two trains. Is you buy identical trains, you get everything done, and they both run different. It just keeps on a coming. The other thing that I noticed was on the bottom of these trucks, they seem to be scraping. I got some scrape marks. It's not so bad on that one, EMD1, but on this other one, it looks like I got some pretty good scraping on there. So I'm thinking maybe that looking at the tops of these road crossings, I may be scraping a little bit there, so I may have to go in and clean a little bit of that up. Also, if you look at the track itself, there's some stray ballast in there, and I may have to go in and do a little cleaning on that too to get that excess ballast up, because it actually sounds like it's kind of scraping as it goes around the track. So that's going to be taken care of also. You can actually see where on this road crossing right here, it actually looks like it may have a high spot in it, and this thing is actually scraping a little bit. So we'll take care of that too. After a long break-in on these things, I'd say a couple hours probably of running. They ran okay. They did have problems with the spots over there, but it wasn't consistent, just every once in a while. The track does need some attention, and that's coming. I thought I'd hook a consist up. So a whole new learning curve for a newbie here. I had to go in and figure out how to do that. I'll probably put a video out on that one of these days, but it was kind of interesting. But went online, and the first thing they talked about was speed matching, and I thought I would ignore that. So I did get the consist working, and I put a front to back like this, because that's what you always see. You very rarely see them, or I haven't seen a whole lot of them that are just front to fronts. Plus they look cooler like this, and that's what little man wanted. But whole new set of problems. Because of the speed matching, this thing did pretty well on the whole track except that bridge. It will not cross that area over there, with apparently one moving faster or slower than the other one, and the rear truck on the rear train derails every time. Then it derails the front, and by the time it gets around over here, it's all off the track. So you know, the consist thing is going to have to be worked out. That's a whole new ball game for me. I did look it up, and I had to get an AccuTrack to do the speed. I know you could do it other ways, but AccuTrack looked pretty good. It was only 80 bucks, so I'm going to do that eventually after I get the track squared away. So I guess the question is it the trains, which I think it was a couple of things on the trains, or is it the track? I'm going to bet on the track. So I'm going to have to go back and tack this track again. and take my time on it and get it right. Now if I'd have done it right the first time, wouldn't be having this problem. But as a newbie starting into this thing, I got caught up in the pretty and not in the functional. I wouldn't have done any of this. Mud, dirt, ballast, grass. I wouldn't have done any of that until I made sure this track worked perfectly. I'm gonna have to go back in and do another video on what I would have done different. And there's a lot of things I'd have done different, but I'm not gonna worry about how I did the trees or the gravel roads, or I'm not at any of that. I'm talking about the functionality, because generally if the track don't work, you got a big diorama. You got a diorama. You can sit here and look at it all you want. If not, you're going to be sitting here not being able to run your trains, and that's more important than the looking of it. So I'm going to back up a little bit. I've already disassembled a lot of this stuff, and going to go back after the track. I found this guy up here. I'm going to put a link to him, and he had some pretty interesting stuff on leveling tracks, and he's got a lot of followers. I'll take a look at some of his stuff on how to loosen this track up a little bit, and what he used. Let me show you. Of course, I don't know what that guy was using, but he had a little bubble level. What I did was I disassembled one of these little cheap bubble levels I had, and I yanked out this. This is what I need. Okay, just to give you an idea of what I'm looking at here, I'm going to put that bubble level on this track, and you can see that it's not too bad right there at that joint, but as it goes around, this thing swings full scale off, which showing me a dip. And over here, a dip. And then on top of this bridge, it goes to level. So there's a big dip in this area, and that's got to be causing my issues. We're gonna go after that, and that's gonna take some major cutting out of this. Gotta do it. The other area is down here where this incline stops, and you can see on the bubble that it's all the way to the outside of the track is too low, big time. Up here it's better, and as it goes up it swaps right in here, right before that, and that's where I did all that wood surgery. I wish I'd have thought of this earlier. And but you can see that the bubble's halfway out there. So I'm going to use this method here and go around and check this whole track and see if there's any corrections like that track. That's probably acceptable there, but some of these areas that are really bad, I'm going to use his method of hot water and loosen that glue up, and try to manipulate this track with my heating all my solders up, and get this track to operate a little bit better. I was asked by one of my subscribers, actually I've had it by a couple, two or three of them, of hey, which trains do I need to get? You know, if you're like me, you're a newbie, and I didn't have anything. This was the extent of my train set that I started with. Little Santa Fe, little Bachmann. It was nothing special, but a whole bunch of these junk cars, and it was DC. Now, this thing on this track ran awesome, beautiful around this thing, full speed, like a little race car. It just, and it didn't have any problems, and that was before I did any corrections or cleaning or did anything to it. This thing, I'm going to put a video, just a quick video in right here. Well, got it running. The track is wobbly. A lot of the connects got to be tightened up, and I'm going to solder all those, but that's our only train right there. That's it. Got one little cool car, and we got one of these, and we got one of these. That's the extent of our rolling stock. Yeah, I think that's what you guys call it. But the piers, let's follow around one time. I gotta put the camera on it. My problem, I believe, all stemmed at the beginning when I had the greatest running little train, this one, to test my track with. I had nothing. I had nothing. I didn't know all these other ones were cantankerous. But let's look at this thing. This thing measures out at, about 6 inches in between the trucks. The front truck and the back truck, about 5 3/4 inches, somewhere in there. And the weight of this thing is 280 grams, 283 grams. And it ran great. Let's look at my next one I bought. The next one I bought was this BL Broadway Limited steamer, because that's what he wanted, the steamer. Now, I expected this thing to be a problem. I mean, look at the parts on this thing. Jiminy Christmas. There's 4 wheels on the front and 6 wheels on the side, another pair on the back, and it's dragging another set of more trucks in the back. So I expected it to have some more issues. I'm thinking maybe that the majority of the problem on this one, it's actually shorter than that one over there. So that's one difference. It's a little bit shorter, but you'd think for an 18-inch radius that would work better. But I think the problem is right here, is that these 6 wheels right here are they're going to be perfectly lined up. So if you have any curves, these seem to be the issue right here. These floating wheels, they're not a big issue, but these 6 in the middle, they tend to give a little more trouble. So these steam engines, they just don't run as good. Now there's some people that get them to run really good, and maybe after I get the track take care of it will. But there's your length on that. I mean, it's 6 inches, but between the front and rear wheels is 5, so it's actually a little bit less. Let's get a weight on this thing real quick. Okay, the weight on this thing is 336 grams. So this thing is 100 grams heavier than the thing here. You'd think that would stick to the track a little bit better, but apparently not. This by far is the best running train of all. It can go around there all day long on the track as it is and never give me 1 inch of trouble. Overall length, it's almost identical. The other one's a little bit less than 6 inches. And between the front and rear, it's exact 5.5 inches between the front and the rear. And it doesn't appear, yeah, it's all scratched up on the bottom too, right on the bottoms of those trucks. Could that be the track itself? I don't know. It's just a low runner, I guess. I don't know. Let's check the weight. It weighs even more, 383 grams. So that's 50 grams more than the steam and 150 grams more than the one that ran the best. And now the new one, since they're both the same, just show you the one. And let's get the length on this. And it's, You know, it's almost identical. Again, 5.5 inches between the front and rear truck. And let's check the weight. 340 grams. Now, which one runs best? Well, I would say, well, this one. And if I could run that one, boy, I may even fix that one up and convert it, because that thing ran like a champ already. So I don't know. I don't know if it's the trains itself. First thing you got to do is you got to get your track squared away. Get your track squared away, and then I'm going to revisit all this. I do know that some of these trains have to be shorter for these radius of turns, so keep that in mind. And just ask the experts. You know, you may get some people in the notes down there that comments that tell you what trains really work for them. But if your track is crap, your track is crap. One thing I took away from the MR or NMRA show is those guys was running those consists. There was probably 50 or 60 cars. Hell, may even been more than that on there. They had 2, 3, one had 5 engines on it, all running consists, and they worked beautifully all the way around the track the whole time. For me, I can't get 2 trains to run together, and so I think we're going to go after the track. Those guys got their track to work first. The track is the primary, and then the pretty stuff. So what I'm going to do is go after this track, and I'll document it here. And but it's not the way you should be doing it at the end of the project to fix your track. It should be done prior to doing this other stuff. So let me get after it.